Hello, everybody. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky. I'm the accounting professor, and I'm really stoked to have on the call Donavan Vasquez, who is an enrolled agent here in Southern California. Donovan is taking classes at Irvine Valley College, but more importantly, maybe one of the youngest enrolled agents that I've met. And so this is really going to be about Donovan's journey as to enrolled agent, and then since becoming an enrolled agent, hearing more about what he's been doing work-wise, as well as classes he's been taking with us at Irvine Valley College. So Donovan, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
All is well. It's always fun as we're heading in here to summer. So just real quick, so how did you become an enrolled, or like when did you start doing tax returns? Like what year did that have? Like how old were you when you started doing that kind of work?
Well, like not like an act like well, I started with my grandfather, and I'm not the actual form itself, but he would have me because he was a CPA, long time ago. He still has it, but had it from way, 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 way back when. So I didn't see, like a 1040 or anything until, years after I could pencil out on a piece of paper how much tax you owed. Um, which was interesting, but the it shows what software today has saved
Right.
us a lot. But that was about, I'd say my sophomore year summer in high school.
Okay, so you're maybe like about 14, 15 years old, somewhere around there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. And so then once you got that, then this is before you went to IVC, you basically said, okay, what drove you to becoming an enrolled agent?
Enrolled agent wise, actually, so I learned all the tax stuff, and then he taught me accounting, and then I went to IVC because at the time I took a financial accounting, and then I took managerial accounting, and I still wasn't eight, so I was from 14-ish to 17, let's say. I took all the accounting courses, and at that point there was not much more I could do
Right.
because there's no
Right, without transferring to a four-year university and
exactly.
right, yeah.
And I wasn't trying to go grind out the general eds in high school. So what someone had I heard about it through, I think my mom, weirdly enough, because like something to do with if the transfer of a CPA firm, if it's just tax, then an EA could hold on to it compared to it if no one in the family is anything, you scramble and it's a huge issue.
Right.
And so that was the main driver, but I also knew that I most likely could pass it, and I was a little cocky myself, but I decided let's go try the course. And I would say the individual was everything I didn't know
Right,
about
right.
tax.
So basically, so you decided to take the exam and you used Fast Forward Academy, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and I was really, really, really good. And I started with individual.
And by the way, at this point in time, you had not taken any tax courses at Irvine Valley, right?
No, 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 never, no.
So
Yeah,
you're
I don't think you
taking,
guys offered one back then.
we believe it or not, we did, but not to the extent that we do now in terms of the
Mhm.
different course offerings. But okay, so you basically used Fast Forward Academy, and it sounds like you were doing more corporate returns previously. So you weren't
Partnership
using
and
a
LLC
partnership.
and stuff. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah. So the pass-throughs and whatnot, and then S corps,
Right.
which same thing, but
Yeah.
not individuals at all, basically.
And so you used the Fast Forward Academy, and basically that helped you pass the end of it. So when you went to take the EA exam, that was at a Prometric center, or
Yes,
so you went to
yes.
the Prometric center, you paid the $267 per part. And when you sit down there, did you do a preview of it, or did you just kind of show up, took the test, they gave you a cubicle? Did they give you,
Yeah,
okay,
it's really interesting. I never have taken a like something like that. So the first time was definitely weird.
right.
Showing up and they like check your pockets, and you
Yeah.
can't wear like a jacket, and everyone's so quiet, and
Oh, yeah.
you have your locker, and
Yeah.
it's definitely an experience.
Yeah.
Although once I passed it the first time,
And by the way, when you're taking the exam, right, you answer all 100 multiple choice questions. They tell you instantly whether or not you've passed,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
do they tell you the score, or do they just say you've passed?
So they say you passed, and then they email you the score right away, basically. So you don't have to wait.
Okay.
But
And passing is above what, how many points do you need to pass?
I couldn't tell you. I tried to figure it out. It's a weird calculation.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a weird, it's not like, oh, just pass 80 out of 100 and you got it.
There's
And
like a weight to the questions or something.
there's
Or,
a way to, and it like it, so no one can cheat. I think it gives you a question based off of your previous questions
okay.
on top of like another criteria.
Hmm.
I don't know for sure though, so don't quote me on that,
Right.
but
Sure.
I never knew what score I got besides they give you a 1, 2, or a 3. In order to pass, you need 2s, and it scores
Okay.
you in each of these individual units.
Okay.
Or like for example, business would be partnerships, corporations,
B Corps, S Corps.
exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah, like everything specifically, and I think trust and estates goes to individual. Yeah, so that's not business at all.
Okay.
They really focus in the business on pass-through entities,
Okay.
basis, and whatnot. But I will say the scoring, if you get all 2s, for example, you pass.
Right.
If you get a single 1, you don't pass.
Okay. So how long did you study for the individual part of the exam using Fast Forward? Were you doing it for like 2 months before you took the test? Was it a few weeks? Like, how long did you spend preparing for the exam?
Fast Forward was good. It wasn't as good as I'm going to make it sound, only because I had the past experience.
Right.
But I just kind of read through the study guide and just started taking the practice questions
Right.
for about a week before.
Okay. But that's, and I think for everybody out there, it's like, you have by that point, like a few years of part-time tax experience
Exactly.
working under your grandfather, who's like giving you, like helping you with understanding how tax works. Right. So for someone normal to kind of go through and do it, it may take a longer period of time.
And actually, I do know someone who's in the process of it right now, and they're doing Fast Forward. What I really liked about it, and what they also really liked about it, so it's not just me, is the videos that come with it.
Okay.
They have 2 separate chunks of videos. They have one, something called like a boot camp, which drills into specific, more complicated and maybe seen more on the exam things.
Right.
And then they also have hour-long lectures for each of the individual topics that are going to be tested.
Okay.
From what I've seen and how I did it is listen to the videos and then read the book and then take the test questions, but don't touch the test questions until you've done that.
Okay.
Because every time you take the test question, it'll reference you to the video or the point in the video where you can see it being explained, or
Yeah.
in the study guide. I would say for someone who knows nothing about tax with Fast Forward, assuming they understand like regular basic accounting, took in financial accounting, if they were to study maybe every day, 5 days a week, not 7 maybe, but an hour a day, it could take them a month to be ready to sit for the first individual one.
And obviously, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but if you were to take, say, like Professor Grinberg's or a tax course at IVC, like say if you took the 206A, 206B individual classes, and you were getting exposed to the material, then your actual time to study then would be
I would cut it in half
significantly
or
less.
even a
Yeah,
quarter.
probably cut your
Yeah.
time in half. Okay.
Especially since you have someone who you can ask questions, like with those things, they have like a forum or whatnot.
Right.
And that was also an advantage I had with my grandfather. But the asking a question, and then the fact that like for Stephen, for example, or my grandfather, they oh well, I've dealt with that before, right? This is what happened, this is why it happened, this is the history behind it, blah blah blah. That really helps you understand the concept. And then any question you throw around the concept, you can kind of hit it.
Cool. So you pass individual, which is awesome. Congratulations. And then after you pass the individual, then was the next phase you took was the business portion?
Yes.
Okay. And for the business portion, obviously, because you've been preparing all the things with the pass-through entities and everything else, it probably seemed like more like second nature to you when you were studying for that, but you obviously use fast forward again for the business portion of the EA exam.
Yes, so for the business, because I had that past experience, I only watched the videos and I
Okay.
just listened to them. And then I just took some of the practice exams. And the questions were mainly focusing on like the pass-through entities, which was
Sure.
like, I would say 70% of my exam was basis and pass-through entities.
Okay.
And I had worked with that a lot. I needed to refine corporations,
Right.
but besides that, in my opinion, the business exam, because of my past experience, was the easiest exam for me.
Right. Which I think for most people that are taking the test, I think it's actually one of the harder ones, right? Just because they haven't had the exposure to it, it can make it a lot difficult. And by the way, just
Exactly, especially basis is
yeah,
so it took me like so long.
it's always fun. But by the way, so just before we get to that, the first thing you do when you're applying to become an EA is you have to get the prepare tax identification number with the IRS, which costs about like $20. Then you had to schedule the exams with Prometric at a Prometric center, which I'm assuming you did someplace in Orange County. They obviously have time. And by the way, I think you can only take the exam from May 1st through February 28th. I think it goes silent in March and April. Or so yeah. So then once you passed individual, then you pass business, and then for the tax, the procedures, planning and procedures part, how did you like to prepare for that? Again, did you just use fast forward, or how did you find that part of the exam?
So I had experience working under CPA, so I never had to deal with practice and procedure. I thought it was just ethics and a joke. So I didn't study for it and I failed.
Wow, you failed, okay?
Because everybody online was like, oh, it's the easiest test. You don't have to study. And I'm like, oh, I don't study. And it's like, what's a 30-day letter? What are you talking about? Give me a 30-day letter. What does that have to do with ethics? So that was funny.
So
And I
it cost
actually
you,
failed it on Valentine's Day.
wow. Wait, so it cost you an extra $267 to take that test.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's always a cost to thinking it's too easy. But when you did not pass it, but then to pass it, I think it's that you pass it on your second time.
Yeah, I went back 2 days later and I just read I read one of the videos were extremely helpful for practice and procedures. I actually still today go back to those videos on practice and procedures in Fast Forward Academy to watch.
Wow.
For when I'm working, because I really like the guy and the gal that are in the videos. And I know I keep talking about the videos, but I cannot emphasize enough they were.
No, that's cool. I'll send them this video after the fact, and maybe they'll give us a code for sponsorship to get it out there, right?
Yeah.
So what was it about so for the Fast Forward Academy, were the videos just really engaging, or what was it about the videos that were they entertaining, or were they very succinct? What did you like about
Short and sweet.
Okay.
They're short, they get to the point, and they do it illustrates it. And it's obviously looks all clean and whatnot. But they also reference specifically where and who and why. Like, for example, this was implemented in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. The IRS hasn't exactly defined X, Y, and Z, although there's some things that have proven it this way, and it's a little more detailed that you don't need for the test. You don't need to memorize that part, but in my opinion, it really helps you memorize it.
It gives you context for what okay, perfect.
Exactly.
So you basically then you pass tax policies and procedures, and then so you got the notice that you passed, right? So now having passed all 3 enrolled agent exams, the individual business, and then tax policies and procedures, then you applied online, which I think they call it the Form 23 for your enrolled agent designation, right? And how long, so I know the cost of it's like $140. How long did that take how long from when you applied for it did it take you to get the designation back from the IRS?
Yes. So 2 things. One, timing, I think, matters with that. I applied, so I passed the ethics one or whatever, or
Part 3.
procedures.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 days ish before the February end
Okay.
came up. So I got very lucky passing that the second time. But and then the second thing is it only took about a month and a half. Now the main thing that confused me though, it took me a few days to actually file this form because it's not on the IRS, it's actually at the Treasury website.
Okay.
So you go to like treasury.gov and you have to create an account there.
It's funny because when I was looking at it yesterday, I think they put it onto the IRS site, but you actually may be correct. It may be through the Department of Treasury, but I know that
It might like send you off to the
Right.
Treasury. Yeah, and it also sends you the receipt, but there's not really, you can't really like get an update regarding the status unless you want to sit on the phone for a while. And they do like a whole background check on you. It's actually kind of freaky. You have to answer questions like, which one of your aunts lives at X place?
Wow.
And it gives like the address. Oh, it's which one of your aunts lived at X place in 2013? And you have to
Wow.
answer. And I didn't know the answer to one of the questions, and so I ended up having to call my aunt and ask her where she lived in 2013.
Wow. That's crazy.
Because I think the FBI is actually the one who conducts the background check.
Okay.
And you have to get a thumbprint as well.
Oh, so okay, so actually I'm gonna pause this really quickly just because I want to bring up the form.
This is the actual form.
Right, so this is the form 23, right? So I think over here you got to pay $140. You put in your social security number, put in your date of birth, your legal name, your current address, and you can also do this. There's a way you can also do this electronically.
That's the way I did it. That's why the Treasury thing.
And then, right, if yes, I'll enter in all these other names. Do you have a CAF number? Who knows what that is?
No.
Are you current with your current obligations? Have you ever been sanctioned by a federal state licensing authority? Has any application with you been denied? Have you ever been convicted of a tax crime or felony? Have you been permanently enjoined from preparing returns? Are you a CPA? Are you an attorney? And then you're going through and signing this. But I guess I'm assuming based on what you said, that if you were to go through and do this, basically, if you were to kind of go through is to go to this one, and might be.
Oh, this is new.
Yeah, so this might be, so if I went, so over here, so I've obviously have to go through, so right, so I think this is basically how you go through and basically apply. So I think this might be a little bit differently than what you were kind of going through and looking at previously.
And I think I'm clarifying, and I was incorrect. It was the EFIN that was a little more.
Okay.
It was the EFIN that asked the whole question, and you have to get the finger thing.
Right, so I don't think you have to, for this one, I don't think you got to get a fingerprint. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so you applied for this, and then how long did it, because obviously you were applying when the window was down, or they say basically if you applied right after, so it took them, how long did it take you, like once you made the application to get your license?
A month and a half, so I got it right before April 15th.
Okay, cool.
So I got to shove a few
And do they send you a certificate, or what do they send you?
This thingy. It's just a white paper with a little stamp on it with your EA number, and then the day it was granted.
Nice.
No. Let's see it. Nothing fancy like the CPA one. I know the CPA one's fancy. This one is.
Yeah, you can come to my office and check it out. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, dude, you're fully legit, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
Very
you get
cool.
a better frame.
No, I think it's good. You'll get when you get CPA license, you put that up something, make that nicer.
A trick though, once you apply for the EA, I didn't know, and I kind of just took the risk of applying for the EFIN or electronic filing identification number, which you need to file online tax returns. And if you file more than 10 tax returns, you have to file EFIN. You have to file online. You can't file more than 10 paper returns unless you have a reason.
Right.
So that one takes a while as well.
Okay.
Apply for it around the same time when you're applying for your EA or when you're sending off that document.
Okay, so this is an EFIN or an electronic filing identification number? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's under you set up like your tax pros account with your PTIN, and there's so many numbers.
Right.
I got to tell you, I mean,
Yeah, you got to keep
I
something. You gotta
forgot my
keep it.
garage code
Yeah.
because those numbers are more important. And I was just learning what my social security number was because I just turned, 18, and
Right.
it's important. So a lot of numbers, and then you have a different PIN. You have a personalized number that then
Right.
is like your PIN passcode that
Okay.
you actually put on the return or something like that. Or depends on the software, but normally you have this thing so you don't throw your EFIN right on your tax return. It's like Social Security in a sense. But that is important to have because if you get your EA, you can't just go run with it yet.
Right.
That one, I didn't know at the time if you needed to actually get certain, you actually are an enrolled agent or
Right.
you aren't an enrolled agent. And I sat on the whole phone on hold and nobody was answering. So I just kind of sent it, hope for the best, and it worked. So obviously it worked.
So let me ask you this. So if you're working for a firm, and again, this comes down to like signing returns, right? So if you're just working as an enrolled, if you have the enrolled agent designation, but you're like an employee and you're not the one who's actually signing off on it, maybe your supervisor is doing it, then maybe the EFIN is not something that I need.
You wouldn't need it, although I would say you should get it.
Right.
Because let's say down the road, you either get fired or you quit and you want to make some bucks because everyone's got to file a tax return and you
Right.
file more than 10 tax returns.
Get it all electronically.
And now you have to wait for the EFIN to come through.
Right. So you just do it at the same time as you're
I
applying.
think so. I think it's not that expensive. I think it's one of like 15 or 20 bucks or something like that. Maybe it's like 60 bucks. It's nothing too expensive. Yeah, we should probably check. Application costs.
Oh, here you go. So let me pull this up. So this is the EFIN.
Oh, there's no fee.
I think it's probably, is it this? The e-file or EFIN application?
Yeah, I filled it out on the online version of
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Cool.
never use the services also.
No, just do it. Just do every, by the way, this is a good point. You do everything directly with the IRS, correct?
Yes. And when you start practicing and you start doing EIN numbers and whatever, also do that because I didn't know that and I ended up paying $200 for an EIN number and I thought oh no, it's the government. They try to trick you. They'll say irs.com instead of irs.gov. So always make sure it's .gov.
Perfect.
It's
okay. So you just do
fun.
it like, okay, yeah, here we go. Okay. So
yep, right, yeah, perfect. Right there. So you access, it's another Tax Pros account. It's the Access eFile Services.
Is it the eFile Provider Services right here?
Yes, that one. Yep. And then the eFile application or whatever. And you set up
where you have to go through. Okay, this is where you have to go through.
Let me see if I can pull up mine.
That's the fun one where you actually know I've actually done this for some other government websites where you actually have to go through and then go through and do that part. So very cool. So Donovan, I think what we're gonna do is like let's this is going to end part one of this conversation. I'm going to end this chat because I think this is actually a great start. But actually, before we end it though, so once you were in fact an enrolled agent, then you're kind of, were you working solo or were you working for somebody else once you got your EA?
So I come from the family of CPAs, so I'm lucky enough that I was working for my dad.
Right. Okay. So I guess the question really becomes is that if you in fact have your say if you weren't working for your parents or if you weren't working under your family firm and you had to work by yourself, I'm assuming the things that you would actually need to kind of go through and do is to one, you would need some sort of like malpractice insurance, correct? Because like in the event you're getting sued, you would have something like that. You would probably want to either possibly incorporate or have like something, and again,
no legal advice here, but
no, and I guess it really comes down to, I guess if you're holding yourself out and if you're not hiring anybody, I think in California, like the moment you hire people, that's when things get complicated from a labor standpoint.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I created an entity because I was also kind of doing stuff on the side,
Right.
perks of working for your father. Um, so I created the entity and it was an LLC. I got that. The insurance through the National Association of Enrolled Agents. They have a little
Okay.
discount thing you takes you to. I just filled out their form and got the insurance. I hope that it was all good. I first time ever doing an insurance form because once again I just turned 18
Right.
and it was about it was like a few $100
Okay.
and that's for I think the minimum amount that they were like is like $500,000 in revenue. As long as you have no employees. And the entity is where I'm still confused today. If the IRS is watching, or don't come after me, but I tried calling and no one could answer my question. I went in loops for a long time. A CPA, a doctor, all these people, they have to be a professional corporation.
Right. Actually, yeah, you're correct. So what you have to do, so, and I've done this for attorneys and also for CPA, actually, I've never done it for a CPA, but I have done it for attorneys. If you incorporate as an attorney, there is language you have to include in the bylaws where only attorneys can actually be a part of like whatever that practice is. Now, for enrolled agents, that's a great question. I don't know if you have an EA firm, if you then need to basically say, okay, well, only enrolled agents can become partners in this particular firm. I think it would probably be something that would be good for you to actually go through and do. But again, if you're holding out your name as Donovan Vasquez enrolled agent, there shouldn't be any issues.
Exactly. And that's the name of my entity is just
Yeah,
Donovan A. Vasquez.
yeah, because
So LLC.
yeah, and if you're holding yourself as your own name, there's really no, the problem would come as like, yeah, like DVEA, right? Like something like that. It's like, okay, wait, what's that? Because I think there becomes like then a confusion issue with the public. So got some malpractice insurance, formed an entity. We're not giving legal advice here, nor would we ever. But you would you could do that. You would want to look into it though. And then what do you use for your tax software? What tax software do you use?
Great tax, and I love it. I also use CCH. It's more expensive for more complicated returns. So
Okay.
like if you're doing consolidated corporate returns or big complicated real estate LLC groups or something like that, CCH, or I know what's the other name? I didn't like it that much. It's an older one, but no, it's an older one, but it's very popular. They use it at all the firms.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crap. Is it not CCH, but it's like I think it might be the Intuit one.
Westlaw, yeah, could be, not sure
Yeah,
about.
whatever it was. I used that for a little bit. I did not like it because it's very, very like fill out the form, but like
Yeah.
we aren't gonna let you fill out some of the boxes, and then we're not gonna tell you why. Or maybe I just didn't know the software that well. Drake is the easiest thing in the world if you are a small, business and you have employees filing tax returns and you don't have extremely complicated tax returns. Use Drake because it's extremely easy to learn too. Like you
Like
could know nothing.
DRAKE.
Yeah, DRAKE tax software.
Okay.
And the price is actually really good too.
Okay.
I think the unlimited's like $1,000 or something like that. Drake software tax. And it comes with a CRM, or not a CRM, but like the file storage thing where you can
Okay.
invite them in and they can do the stuff. And it's once again, it's very clear.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go technical, like form number XXX. Click this form, you have to file this. It's like wages, enter your wages here. It's like filling out a TurboTax tax return, honestly.
And by the way, Donovan, just to kind of clarify something, and I think this is for anybody who's watching this part of this video, is that this is why it's probably really important that if you can work for an accounting firm prior to becoming or after becoming an EA or prior to becoming an EA, because you need to kind of see, well, anybody, I don't want to say like, look, passing the enrolled agents exam, it sounds like the Fast Forward Academy, if you could use that to really learn tax, but that's passing the EA exam, which is incredibly different than actually filling out forms and everything else.
So different.
It's so very, very different. So I think that that really kind of goes back to that if you are going to be practicing as an EA, you want to be going through and working for an accounting firm so you can actually kind of learn how to actually go through and file returns, what tax software to use, all those kinds of things.
In addition, you want to work for a tax firm that you aren't going to be worked to the brim,
Right.
specifically because the whole point of it is you should be printing out your return and reviewing it and learning the actual return sheet.
Right.
Because if you go off on your own, you've got to check every number on that sheet and make sure you're filing all the forms, because sometimes the software goofs up and you got to be able to, see it. I
Right.
ran into that before, where it auto calculates something or you have to check a box somewhere, and you really, because it's your name going on it and you're sending it off, spelling on the return, knowing where your inputs are going in on the actual paper return sending off, knowing what parts of the return have to be paper filed and what can be e-filed. All that stuff is very important. You can't really learn that. You have to really just go through the motions over and over and over and over again. And you also can't do that, in my opinion, if you have an employer who's grinding you to the bolts.
And Don, one of the other things you kind of mentioned, I think, and it's like when we also too, when we're working obviously as an EA, one of the benefits of being an enrolled agent is you can essentially help out clients that are up in Eureka, California, or in Santa Barbara, California, or anywhere in the state or outside of the state potentially. And when that happens, obviously they're going to have to send you files. And when they're sending you files, I mean, do you have like a secure server set up, or the tax, when you say, I think you're maybe, this is when I kind of heard it, when you subscribe to Drake tax or whatever, Drake tax, does that come with an ability for the clients to upload their materials securely to you?
Yeah, so it comes with a it's called like a document manager with a PDF printer. So it's like a drive type thing.
Okay.
And you print to the drive and then you send that off to the client. Now for storing the client documents, it's $104 a year to get their server.
Okay.
On top of, and this is for multi-user, right? It's $104 a year per user.
And that you could have, so is it it's per user at your firm. So you could have, if you had 50 clients, it'd only be costing you $104 a year to store their information.
Yes. And the actual Drake tax software, they've started implementing this thing that's really interesting, but if you just got you probably shouldn't do it. It's where it can take the documents and input it into the software.
Okay.
It's like a W-2, right? And it'll input it. Now, I would be careful with that, especially if you still got it, because once again, the forms. But it all kind of interlinks. And then I do have the price. It's $2,500 for the actual software for multi-user. That's unlimited users, unlimited returns, state e-file, federal e-file, everything.
And that's per year?
Per year, yes.
Okay. Right. And again, like, that's really one of the things that I think that if you were to be going through and starting up as an enrolled agent, and I think understanding what those costs are going to be between, obviously there's the cost of being an enrolled agent, which I think all in with the review courses and everything else. I mean, but then once you become an enrolled agent, between the malpractice insurance, between, buying the
$800 LLC fee.
Yeah, all the other kind of fun stuff. And it can obviously those things can add up. So when you are, working with clients, that's also something too. Now, also when you work with clients as an EA, I'm assuming you have them sign some sort of engagement letter.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And
Always engagement letter.
Right. So, and when you bring on a new client, having that engagement letter is also really, really important. And obviously there's different duties and rules as far as like the veracity or what you have to do in terms of looking at that information, which we're not going to talk about in this video, but it is something. And I think, Donovan, for someone who's like, to me, obviously there's becoming a CPA, which is obviously you've got to get a bachelor's degree, you got to have a lot of accounting units. When you look at though at this part here in terms of being an EA, do you think it's like with being an enrolled agent, like trying to work for someplace for a few years, working on taxes, and then possibly doing like bookkeeping? Like would bookkeeping pair up really well with being an enrolled agent? Or what kind of recommendations? So say if I want to kind of get started on my own, I want to be my own boss, I want to, basically take and pass the enrolled agents exam. What do you kind of recommend on that front? Like what kind of pairings would bookkeeping be a good pairing with being an enrolled agent? What kind of things would you suggest?
First thing there is, unfortunately, you're not your own boss because you're a slave to your clients. I'll be
Yeah.
really honest on that. I learned that right away when I tell my dad, oh no.
Well, I mean, I meant like you're going to go off on your own, right?
Yeah.
We always
I was just
always
saying
serve
that
the client. Yeah, no, we always serve the
fun
client.
lesson to learn
Yeah.
in high school when you also have annoying or not annoying but great teachers who are mad that you didn't show up for class but you were up all night dealing with someone freaking out. But recommendation wise, so I had a little bookkeeping company up until I got my EA because that was all I could legally do, and it's a great feeder. So they will basically force their way into you managing their books because they don't want to deal with someone else.
Right.
And they will ask you over and over and over and over and over again until you do it. So I would honestly say if you're having trouble getting clients, then yes, offer it. I'm going to be completely honest in the fact of if you're not having trouble getting clients, which I feel like today, just from people I've talked to in general and then myself, there's a lot of demand. And I don't really see large issues with getting clients. Like if you're working in business, and you have your own business and you have to get customers, I really don't see it as the same because you just post your thing on Google or like Nextdoor or whatever, and
Right.
they'll call. Be picky about your clients, but if you aren't having trouble getting clients, be picky and give the bookkeeping, have like someone who you like to work with who does bookkeeping do your client's books. Don't let your client give you the Excel sheet. Don't let your client come in with bank statements a week before the filing deadline, because every single one of them tries. That was a big lesson I also learned is I was never, I wasn't confrontationally ready for that.
Right.
To say I can't do that, or it's not worth it to me to go do that. But that's something that I would say with working by yourself and not for a firm is negative in that fact, in the sense of the problem in my eyes isn't getting clients, it's getting clients that actually respect you, one, are going to pay you well and on time, and because that's also an issue. Or maybe I just have really crappy clients. I'm just kidding. And they aren't going to show up and just expect everything like you're God.
Right.
Because a lot of times that's what people do. I think almost, on a monthly basis, you run into someone who thinks that accounting does itself and you just file the return. So I would say actually the opposite is try to give out as much as you can if you aren't having trouble getting clients. I don't know, it depends on the person if they want to hire someone to help. Although, like you were saying, you hire someone, there's more to it than just hiring someone. So
California is obviously extremely complicated when you're hiring employees, and if you hire someone as a bookkeeper and like you're having to supervise their work, they're going to fall under that category where you cannot classify them as an independent contractor. So that kind of creates its own issue on its own. So it's, it is what it is.
That's why I like to have people I know who feed me clients, bookkeepers, because they can't prepare tax returns.
Right.
And it's business. Business clients, personally, it's the highest margin compared to individuals
Right.
because individuals take up a lot of meeting time. That's also a thing that I found out is meeting time is the biggest cost of running your own thing. And once again, I'm still small and I'm complaining about all these things. So, but you spend so much time discussing things with your clients, and then you get the documents and you can just finish it up. If you have a business client, it is a lot more profitable, in which a feeder to that is bookkeeping.
Right.
So whether you offer it yourself or you know someone, which I personally recommend, then you like how they do their books, because that's another very important thing is professional bookkeepers, each of them do their books differently. And some of them make no sense. Some of them make sense. And your client is just to kind of expect you to go with it because you should just know, right? And the books are there
Right.
and you go with it, but watch out for that stuff as well with going out on your own. Preferably do your research and find someone who you really like.
Well, all right, well, let's end this part one and we'll go ahead and thank you, Donovan, for end of part one, part two coming up right now.